Hello, what's happening? Happy Thursday to you out there. Eddie Radosevich and George Stoia here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. It's another Thursday. We did make it through the Thunder game on Wednesday night. Not the best of times over at the Paycom Center. It was a good time if you're a Dallas fan out there, but it was not the best of times for the Oklahoma City Thunder fan.
Not great.
The vibes are extremely low right now for good reason.
Which sucks because, going into the game, the vibes were extremely high.
Yeah,
I would say.
They were through the roof.
You and I were having a good time, and just a letdown,
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to, we'll probably get into it a little bit later, but they just need to shoot better. That's the bottom line. Got to shoot better.
Scoring the basketball does help in a game of
shooting 25% from three. You're not going to win many games.
No, it was not a good performance. It was a really good performance though for Dallas, and that's kind of where the strangest thing about it is like. I know that we around here think, oh, my God, these guys are playing like shit. And they are to a certain extent, but I think Dallas has had something to do with it.
Oh, yeah. Dallas has been very good. I mean, people forget I think they were defensively the best team in the NBA the last 20-some games of the regular season. So they are doing a really good job of forcing the Thunder to shoot some shots that I think are not always great shots.
Yeah,
so
it's been rough. Well, welcome in. This is the SoonerScoop.com Thursday night Q&A. Good time to join SoonerScoop. A lot going on. The OU baseball team wins today. They now have 22 wins on the season in conference play. It's a school record for the OU baseball program, who obviously wrapped up the Big 12 championship for the regular season a week ago, the first one in the Big 12. And, the vibes continue to be good. They've now won 14 of the last 16 in Big 12 conference play. And actually the game 2 of the doubleheader in Cincinnati starts in about 25 minutes here on Thursday night. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Bob Persbill will be over at softball starting on Friday evening, tomorrow evening, when Oklahoma opens the Norman Regional at Love's Field. Cleveland State coming into town. I don't expect too much from the Vikings. I think they made a little bit of a storybook run through the Horizon tournament. What was that, last week? But we'll see. Boston and Oregon, all of the Melissa Lombardi stuff on the other side. We got a really good family business coming out this week. They caught up with Alex Duraco off of last year's national championship team. So pretty good. Looking forward to that from Joe Castiglione Jr. as well as Isaac Stoops. So we want to start doing these more and more here, connecting with you guys out there. Obviously we do a lot on SoonerScoop.com. That's where you can, obviously join for $1 right now, which is a really good kind of bit as we enter kind of the summer months. I think that there's a lot of people out there that look at it and go, well, there's not a whole lot going on. But in reality, there is quite a bit. I know that
a lot of recruiting. You
caught up with Jenny Bronchek yesterday.
Yeah.
Or I guess that would have been on Tuesday.
2 days. Yeah,
2 days ago. And, I think that the news that came out of Iowa City on Monday, I think we all kind of in the war room, in the Sooner Scoop war room, and the message, I guess DMs that we send each other between you and me and Carrie and Josh and Bob, it's like, well, is there something that to be speculated about with Jenny Bronchek and maybe her interest in going back to her alma mater at Iowa? But, that's not the case. Jan Jensen has been named the head coach over there. And, was there anything to take away from what Jenny Bronchek said on Tuesday?
Just that she wants to be at OU, long term, which is what we kind of heard. But, to hear her say it, you always feel a little bit better about it. And, she was the real job that kind of came after her was Tennessee. About a month ago, they had an opening, and she was certainly a top candidate on their list. But, I know Oklahoma's on their side been working towards, getting her extended, long-term at OU. She obviously has a very good team coming back next year. I think 98% of their offensive production is going to be back next season. When you talk about, Skylar Vann and Lexi Keys and, Tot and all these girls that were really, really good this year, they're all coming back next year. They all have played now in the NCAA tournament. They've won 2 Big 12 championships. And now you add Reagan Beers to that mix. I think that they feel pretty good about the direction of this thing. And I think Jenny knows that they have a chance to be pretty special.
I mean, simply put, that team should be a preseason top 15-esque team.
Yep.
I know that On3 put a ranking out there, I think it was about a week ago. They had a number 12 going into next season. And, I think we've talked about it on the Unofficial 40. We talked about it here on some of the Hoops reports. It would seem next year is going to be that year that, hey, kind of expected to get to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament.
Definitely. I think that's the expectation, and I think they have a chance to maybe even go further than that. Like if they can get to some of those, if they need to get a good seed, and you look at their schedule next year, the SEC is very difficult. Obviously, Texas was very good this last year. They're moving to the SEC as well. South Carolina, LSU. They have to face both those teams on the road next season. That's not going to be easy, but I think that if they can get, a 3 or 4 seed somewhere in there, they're going to have a really good chance at, possibly getting into the Sweet 16 for the first time under Jenny Baranczyk.
As you said, there is a lot of recruiting still going on. We did the recruiting report with Josh McQuistion earlier in the week, talking about him getting by to see a pair of Oklahoma running back commits. There is a little bit of wrap-up or clean to replace Jermaine Lole, who obviously flipped from Oklahoma to Texas. It sounds like they're going to be bringing in Louisiana Monroe defensive lineman Aiden Huntington, 6'1", 281. He actually ended up at Louisiana Monroe via Kent State, where he spent his first – how many years did he spend at Kent State? First 3 years?
Yep.
Had a pretty successful year a year ago for the Warhawks. 63 tackles, 16 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks in 2023. Certainly not from a body standpoint somebody that you would think would match up with Jermaine Lole, but certainly somebody that if you're talking about adding a little bit of depth for Todd Bates on the defensive line, he could probably do something like that.
Yeah, look, I think Oklahoma's in a position where they say, hey, we really like our first few guys in Dominic Williams and DJ Terry. Jaden Jackson's probably in that mix as well, Grayson Halton. But they would still like to add somebody that has some experience. And, Aiden Huntington would certainly give them that, being a grad transfer. Like I was told that specifically they were looking at somebody that was a grad transfer. So I think that he's somebody that has been productive. He's not the biggest guy, like you said, but he could be easily in that rotation. He's really a pretty good, effective pass rusher, I would say. And again, when you're talking about having a 6-man rotation and several of those guys haven't really played major college football, if you can pick up a guy like Aiden Huntington, who's right now currently ranked the 6th best defensive lineman in the transfer portal by On3, you certainly take a guy like that. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. I know that he was planning on visiting, sometime I think today. I haven't heard much. He's not a guy that's been easy to get a hold of, unlike Dominic Williams. Following that saga, it was pretty easy to get a hold of his camp. Aiden Huntington, I believe, doesn't have an agent. He's kind of doing this kind of on his own, I believe, maybe some of his family with him. But, I haven't been able to get in contact with him directly. But I know Oklahoma was expecting to meet with him this week on campus, and we'll see how that kind of unfolds. But I know that Oklahoma, the way it was phrased to me is, hey, and I said this on the unofficial 40, is Brent Venables is not going to turn down another defensive lineman. He will take as many defensive linemen as he can get his hands on. And I think when you talk about playing in the SEC and the schedule that they have next year, it's a smart move. Even if Aiden Huntington doesn't come in and is super productive, you need bodies up front. You need big bodies, guys that have played football before at this level. And I think that you can get a guy like that in Aiden Huntington.
Very good. That's kind of like the final step, though, isn't it? With the portal stuff.
And then it's the summer.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it now. I mean, they're about 15 days away, maybe less than that, 14 days, just about 2 weeks away from starting summer workouts with Jerry Schmidt, which is kind of crazy to talk about, thinking that school is already a week out from being done. The semester's over. I know that Dominic Williams has already moved into Norman, into his new apartment.
Yep.
It's definitely summer vibes in Norman. I think that anybody that has been around this town long enough, even just driving down here and driving through, it's like,
it's kind of
there's not a whole lot of people around.
There's not a lot going on. So that's why, send us your questions in the chat, and we don't care if it's off the wall, we'll answer it.
We'll answer anything right now. It's and by the way, Topper wanting to know if I wore the Thunder shirt last night. Of
course. You got a little screwed because our good friend Andrew Schlecht of the Down to Dunk podcast posted that picture.
Okay.
Like 2 hours before tip. We had just walked into the arena.
Well, here's the deal, and let's be honest about it. Let's be upfront about this situation. They put the XL shirt on the seat. I could have worn the XL, but if you put it over a collared shirt, it kind of gets a little bit snug. I wanted to be able to move a little bit. I wanted a little bit more room. So I was taking the shirt up to go trade it out for the XX. I'm fat. Get over it.
And to back up Eddie as well, I wear an XL shirt like normally, but it's snug when you wear another shirt
when you wear
underneath.
2 shirts underneath.
And so you saw me, I just took my shirt that I had worn to the game. I just took it off. I was hoping they'd put me on the big screen, shirtless, and they didn't. But then I just put the shirt on top.
In 8th grade, I think it was when it was acceptable to wear the double T-shirt. There was a lot of that, at least for my age. But I think I've gone away from the double shirt more and more here over the last couple of years.
You're talking about
like
the normal
2 T-shirts, yeah.
Oh, I've never done that.
Yeah, we were big into that.
No.
That was back
terrible.
in the day, though. That was back when
like sweating,
Jinko jeans and all that kind of stuff.
I'm a sweater,
was
so
kind of in.
Two T-shirts. That sounds.
Hello,
smart.
Sloppy Steaks. It's good to see you. It's good that you're already drinking. It's that time of the day. No doubt about it.
It does feel like Friday.
It does. I felt like it's been Friday all day, and I think it's a lot because we were out pretty late for the basketball game last night. I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things. We got to work through Thursday. It kind of rang true when
I've got
turned on and saw the golf too.
Going to the Zach Bryan concert tomorrow night, so it's like tomorrow. It's like that's not till the evening.
I think the downtown area is going to be pretty busy over the next 24, 48 hours because it's Friday and Saturday, right?
Yep. He's doing 2 shows back to back.
Getting Kerry Murdoch north of I-40 doesn't happen very often.
I know he'll be at the concert too. Yes.
Probably, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is neither here nor there, but it is it is kind of an interesting time of the year, just with all of everything that kind of slows down around these areas. Yeah, Grim. How about the OU golf team over the course of the last couple of days, winning the regional out in Santa Fe Regional out in California, moving on to La Costa in the national championships coming up here in a couple weeks. Pretty cool for Ben Lorenz too. He had bumped out of the top 25 in the PGA Tour U rankings, and I don't know if he's going to solidify himself and move back into the top 20 with the medalist honors at the Santa Fe Regional, but pretty cool for him to go out like that as a senior, win the regional, obviously, and be a big part of his team.
I just think it's winning the. I mean, I don't know the same amount about golf as you do, Eddie, but. And winning a college golf national championship, I think, is one of the more difficult things to do in collegiate athletics.
Yeah, especially the way that they have it set up now, having to get through match play or stroke play, and then qualify for match play, and then survive 3 rounds of that.
Incredibly difficult, but the consistency of that program with Ryan Hybl. I mean, what's the stat? They've made what?
They've now made 13 consecutive NCAA championships.
Yeah,
I believe
insane.
It's the 2nd longest streak in the country. And it might even be first. This is the 4th regional title under Ryan Hybl. This is kind of one of those years that you saw a bunch of the higher seeded teams in the NCAA tournament not even make it out of a regional. To go from starting the day, the final day, out at the regional, 1 stroke above the cut line to ending up winning it. Incredible day. 11 under. I think it was the lowest round of the regional by 7 or 8 strokes. Over North Florida, who shot 277. Yeah, I think it was 277 on the first round. OU backs it up with the 269 in the final 3rd day. So really good. It's going to be interesting to see what they were able to do out at La Costa, a place that, for a lot of golf fans, you'd become so familiar with the regionals being played at Grayhawk out in Arizona. A little bit of a newer setting out in Arizona or California. It should be kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll get a sneak preview of that with the women's NCAA championship coming up. I believe they start this week. I want to say they start on Sunday. I think it runs Sunday through Wednesday, and then the men would follow Sunday through Wednesday.
I think we need to figure out a way to get out there.
Well,
but baseball. I mean,
baseball.
You got baseball.
Yeah, they're going to be down in Arlington for the Big 12 tournament coming up next week.
Yeah.
Week from yesterday, they'll play their first game, number 1 seed down in Arlington. Don't know who their opponent's going to be quite yet, but they are going to be the number 1 seed. We know that they're kind of locked into the 12:30 start down at Globe Live. Should be fun.
Yeah, I mean, baseball's been amazing.
Yeah, they've been really good. I was talking to some people earlier, like during the first game today. Like, I think it could be said, like it's a bold proclamation, but it could be said that this is one of the best OU offenses, certainly of the BB core era, but maybe all time, just in terms of what they've been able to produce. The 1 through 9, they're extremely good right now. Easton Carmichael had a hell of a day today. Baseball feeling like 2022. I don't know about that quite yet.
I asked you that today in the office.
We were talking about that during the game. I think that they're extremely, extremely good offensively. And Braden Davis wins his 6th consecutive series opener today. He's now 8-3. Like, there's nothing that tells you that Braden Davis is a dominant starter outside of every time he goes out onto the field, onto the mound, he gives you a dominant type of performance. And I think, to put it simply, it's going to be about what they can get in pitching. And, obviously regionals and matchups, what teams are coming in or where you're going will be important to kind of pay attention to over the next couple weeks. We'll find that out on Memorial Day. It seems like Oklahoma will start the NCAA tournament in Norman. I think they are going to host. It feels like they have a pretty good spot in that. I just don't know if they're going to be able to get into a national seed, into a top 8 seed. I know Baseball America had them as 8 this week. I think D1 Baseball had them as a 10. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Offensively, though, they can score runs with just about anybody in the country right now.
And I'm not as familiar with the team as you are, but I do think there's something about this group that they have a lot of swagger, a lot of confidence in themselves. And when it comes to postseason baseball and you see these teams go on these runs, you've got to have a lot of confidence and you got to have a lot of momentum. And the way they're playing right now, if they keep this up, and we'll see what they do in the Big 12 tournament, I like their chances to at least get to supers. And it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be really cool, too, just to see OU host a regional.
Yeah. Hasn't happened since 2010.
It's going to be awesome. And
I know that they're already kind of putting in some, they're having to kind of plan things out. I think that they're going to really try to make the berm a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't want to I don't want to jump the gun on some of the stuff that they're thinking, but I think that there's a really good chance in 2 weeks you could be sitting in the berm or, wherever in the outfield in Norman with your own cooler. Pay $10 or something, get in. It'd be a really cool setting.
Well, I think that too. It speaks to I think the crowds would be awesome for that. Yeah.
It'd be the same weekend as the Super Regional over at Loves. Maybe you get a little bit of overflow between the two.
Right, and I don't know if the right term is sleeping giant, but OU baseball is historically a decent program, above average program, and I think that they went through that lull for a few years, and I think Skip Johnson's just done a really good job of kind of reinvigorating the program. Where it's been the last few years is night and day from where it was, really when I was in college.
They've been extremely good under Skip, and I think when the postseason awards come out next week, in fact, I think they come out on Tuesday, the day of the start of the Big 12 tournament, or it might even be Monday, the day before the Big 12 tournament begins. I fully expect Skip Johnson to be the head coach of the year in the Big 12, and we'll see. We'll see how many guys they can get onto the first team. I think Easton Carmichael and what he's been able to do at the plate has been really good. Michael Snyder's going to have a chance or an opportunity. John Spikerman might end up have the highest batting average that Oklahoma's had since Del Mitchell or since Del Mitchell, who Toby Rowland mentioned today on the OU baseball broadcast. He hit 560, I think, or 506 as a senior. He has the highest batting average for an Oklahoma player ever for a regular season. I don't think Skip or Spike's going to quite get there, but nonetheless, he's had a really good year coming off of Big 12 Player of the Week honors a week ago. He hit 463 against Baylor. Whew, that's the baseball side of things. Good job by ULM for getting a hold of that booty. Steven, good point. That was kind of cool. That broke while we were recording the Unofficial 40 yesterday. I don't know, how much attention Oklahoma fans are going to be paying attention to the Louisiana Monroe Texas game in Austin on September 21st, being that that's the same day that OU opens with Tennessee in the SEC schedule. But, we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that box score to see how he does.
And I was going to look
and I don't know. Is he even going to start?
That's what I was. I was literally just about to look up to see who is on their roster. But I would assume if they're taking a quarterback, then he's probably going to compete at least for the job. But I'm interested just to see how he does because we really have never seen him play.
Yeah.
But
outside of the what was it, about a 35-yard scamper in the spring game?
Yeah, but it's interesting. I think a lot of players like General. There was a lot of guys that were tweeting at him and posting on Instagram and stuff about him going to Louisiana Monroe. So he was very clearly well liked in the locker room.
I think that's one of those situations too that we don't realize how tight that quarterback room was. I know that Dylan had talked about it in his relationship with Davis. Bevel, who's obviously now at South Carolina, and General Booty, who's now over at ULM, and obviously Dylan Gabriel's gone to Oregon, but all three of those guys, and then Jackson Arnold in that mix, I think that was a really tight-knit group.
Yeah, it just kind of speaks to how far the quarterback room has come, since Brent really got on campus, and they took General as basically just the emergency, backup along with Davis, but now you look at that quarterback room, it looks totally different than it did, with Jackson and Michael Hawkins and Zerberg and Casey Thompson. It's just interesting to see how it's changed. But I hope General goes out and has a good season. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't think I've ever spoken to General either.
Situation is. I've talked to him, but it's just been like in passing, like down on
but
the
it's
field
not
or
like
something.
we've never had like a media session.
Oh no, I don't think he ever did a media session while he was in Norman, if I remember correctly. I think that's correct though. I don't think that he ever did. I mean, to be completely honest, I don't know why he would ever talk.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, like,
no offense to
General,
but
no, yeah, just one of those situations. Mavs win, you suck, George, is all I got to say. Respect Luka, MF.
I respect Luka. I never said I didn't respect Luka. My beef is with the people of the city of Dallas, okay? That's where
you're going for the real hit.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, the Mavericks are damn good. There's a reason they were favored
incredible.
to win the series.
Well, the Thunder were a slight favorite, but
I thought the Mavs were.
No.
And then did it change?
No, I think the Thunder were like minus 110. I mean, it was basically a pick 'em.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Mavericks are really good. Luka was the best player on the court last night.
Luka was great.
And it's amazing how good you are when you're not, worried about complaining about the officials the entire game. He was fantastic.
I kind of felt cheated. I wanted to be able
I know,
to see,
I wanted to
see
boo him.
Luka
there was not a
lose his shit, and he never did.
Like there was one time when he was complaining about something and the crowd broke out and Luka sucks, and then he hit a three, and it's just like, okay, let's not egg him on.
Luka's one of those guys, and
he's amazing.
He might be a little bit in terms of what Thunder fans would have recognized with Russell Westbrook, that you kind of hate him if he's not on your team. If he's on your team, you're going to die for the guy.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would love to have him on the Thunder. What the hell?
He's unbelievable. He put on a display. I thought he was incredible in the first half too.
Oh
especially.
Yeah. But then late in the game,
I leaned over to you at halftime. I was like, he has to have 6 or 7 assists, and I think he had 17 points and 7 assists and 6 rebounds.
Yeah,
that was incredible last night.
He was really good.
All right. Just tuned in. What's the word on Aiden Huntington? We were just talking about it. Aiden Huntington, the defensive tackle out of Louisa Monroe, expected in Norman. I think that anything more than that right now would be purely speculation. It would seem, though, that Duke and Cal are two places that he had on his list already. It would seem like a pretty comfortable situation. If Oklahoma's truly interested in taking him, that he could be the next addition. You wash your hands, you're clean, you're done with the transfer portal.
Yeah, I think that if OU wants this kid, they'd probably get him. The way that it's been phrased to me is that he's very interested in Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's pretty interested in him. Just like I said, they want to take a grad transfer. They want to take someone with some experience. He fits that role. He can play that 3-tech and kind of be that guy that is maybe the 4th or 5th or 6th man in the rotation that they want to have next season. So we'll see. Like I said, on the board, and I know Pete Nakos reported he was expected to be in Norman, I think, late yesterday and visit kind of today. I haven't really heard anything, from him or from people at OU. So we'll see. It's been kind of a quiet recruitment, but I would assume we'll know something by the weekend.
And truly kind of a weird recruitment too, because I'm sure that when you get Jermaine Lole, and then obviously they landed Dominic Williams 2 weeks ago today. I think that there was a lot of feeling and thought that, all right, you're good. You're not going to have to worry about it again. And then they had to jump back in and get after somebody. Not necessarily playing catch up by any means, but you are having to do it a little bit unconventionally.
Yeah, and I think the Jermaine Lole thing is so interesting because, I mean, we talked about it last week on the live stream, just in the sense that, like, OU did not want to lose him. Mm-hmm. Like, I know there's like some people out there pushing this narrative that, oh, well, OU got Dominic Williams and so they didn't want Lole. That's not true. Texas just came in and gave him really a better offer, in terms of playing time, and also I think, NIL money. So Oklahoma is now sitting there saying, okay, well, do we want to is there somebody out there that's worth taking to fill that spot, or do we stick with the guys that we have? Because I do think that they like the guys in the room. It's just they don't have a whole lot of experience. Even a guy like Grayson Halton, who's in his 3rd year at Oklahoma, hasn't played a ton of football. So if you can go out and get a guy that you say, okay, well, this guy has played some football. I know it's at Louisiana Monroe. You still really like to have somebody like that in your room that's maybe a little bit older and a little bit more experienced. I mean, even a Dominic Williams, we act like he's super. Who's this? Who are we watching here? Jermaine Lole. We are watching Jermaine Lole on the screen. But even a Dominic Williams, back to my point, is a guy that is somebody that hasn't played a ton. Like he's obviously started for TCU, but he's only played 2 years of college football, so he's not the most experienced guy in the room. DJ Terry still has that
than everybody else.
Exactly, but it's still like
in comparison,
if that's your guy, if that's your second most experienced guy, it's still not a ton of experience. So I think that they're looking for somebody that's played 3 or 4 years of college football.
No doubt. Which is, obviously a positive situation. When you were able to land Dominic Williams, I think you wanted to keep Lole, obviously, but I think it was kind of everything else's cake. He was the big prize that you wanted out of the transfer portal, especially on the defensive line. For sure.
He would have been for a lot of schools. I mean, all the schools that were in on him, really wanted him. There's our guy Cordell Landers.
The great Cordell Landers.
Sooner lore right there. But I think that he was definitely the top prize, and anything else is gravy.
No doubt. It will be interesting too. I know that it's probably still a little too early to start speculating as far as like the rehab process for Troy Everett, but I would imagine like
in getting the stuff,
a bit of a better idea of that when they start through summer workouts. Obviously, he's not going to be a part of that stuff, but maybe you get a little bit better idea of the projection of where he's going to be.
Who's that?
Troy Everett.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
The audio just completely blew my ears out.
Troy Everett for sure is somebody that it's going to be interesting to see. Like, does that become a competition with Branson Hickman, or is that a situation that
it might be a little unfair because he's just going to miss so much time.
Right. And I think that you feel good, though, now about that center room because I still like Josh Bates. Mm-hmm. Like, I think Josh Bates is somebody that can eventually be a starter at Oklahoma, but he's just not ready yet. He hasn't played a ton of football. Troy Everett has obviously played a little bit more than he has. He played quite a bit at Appalachian State and was really good there. And then you bring in Branson Hickman, who's obviously been a 3-year starter at SMU. I would expect Hickman's going to be the starter. Troy Everett's going to be the backup. Everett can also play some guard. We saw that last year.
Sure.
So I wonder if maybe they try to, use him at guard a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah. Branson Hickman already moved up here?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I saw him posted the other day on social media something about graduating from SMU and Norman's the next stop. So I think he had his graduation either this past weekend or the weekend before.
For sure. We continue getting into some of the subscriber or some of the questions. I know that I do want to mention, really good time to join SoonerScoop.com. For $1, it seems like a really good deal for everybody that is out there on the YouTube world. $1 for 2 months seems like a little bit of a no-brainer in a time period where you would think that there's not going to be a whole lot going on, but there is definitely a whole lot going on. So just go to SoonerScoop.com, promo code OU1 if you want to take advantage of the $1 for 2 months of Soonerscoop.com. Any chance the Sooners have a top 15 defense this fall? Top 10, question mark. I don't know if I'm getting there with top 15, but I think that like a very realistic opportunity to have a top 25, top 30 type defense.
I think so. I was just about to look up the, total defense here. Top 10's pushing it. Top 15.
Top 10's you're making a jump when you compare it to where this thing was a couple years ago. Obviously,
and
what's incremental steps every year, but
what's the statistic that you want to base it off of? Because I think a lot of people just point to total defense. Well, that's just how many yards you're giving up per game. That doesn't mean that you're necessarily a great defense. I know a lot
of people that wait for Max Olson's stop rate every week coming out on the Athletic. That would be
S&P plus.
Sure, that would be a number or a statistic, analytic number to point to.
Well, here for reference, only one SEC team made the top 15 in total defense last year, and it was Georgia at 9th in the country. Michigan was 1, Penn State 2, Ohio State 3. So 3 Big Ten schools, and part of that's the offenses you're going up against. I mean,
sure.
In the Big Ten, I'm not saying Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State didn't have good defenses. I'm sure they were really good. I mean, Michigan was really good, but I think that they weren't playing the best offenses either. So, in the SEC, I do think has some pretty good offenses. So, a lot of it has to depend on that. But I do think that this is a group that has the talent to be definitely top 25-ish.
Well, and I think it's going to be a big question mark in terms of we've talked about all of the guys that are coming back to the program, and one of those guys is going to be Gentry Williams. Like, can he stay on the field? Can some of those guys stay on the field? Is Gentry going to come back in full health for fall camp? Asked Kevin. My initial reaction is yes. Why wouldn't he?
Yeah, he'll be back. I think that him sitting out spring was obviously he had a procedure done. I think it was on his shoulder this off season, right after the season was over, and we all know that he was dealing with that all season. I think that he was suited up for some of practice. He obviously didn't go through any of practice, but unless something happens this summer, I fully anticipate him to be ready to go.
And you would want those guys to continue to, obviously develop to a certain extent. But I think it's really important that a lot of these people stay healthy. I mean, we talked about competitive depth and all that kind of stuff. It will be interesting to see who starts on the opposite side of him. Is it going to be the incumbent Woody Washington who starts opposite of Gentry Williams in the opener at quarterback? Are we for sure that Gentry's going to come back?
I was just about to say that. I don't know. I mean, I think Gentry Williams is obviously a great talent, and when he's healthy, he is really stinking good. But I think that they've got some other guys at corner that they really like too. I mean, I think Des Malone.
As much as we talked about Deion Burks, as much as we talked about Bauer Sharp going back into the spring and some of the new enrollees or the transfer portal additions, perhaps we didn't talk enough about Des Malone and how good of a spring he has, how impressive he was, not to mention that he comes in as somebody that brings a lot of experience with him.
Yeah, and the size is something you really like, too, with him. He's somebody that's very lengthy, can come up and be physical in the run game if you want him to be, which is something Gentry is usually pretty good at when he is healthy. So if you had those two guys out there, you're talking about some big corners out there on the edge. So I like Des Malone a lot. We've heard some really good things about Jacoby Johnson this past spring. I think that he's somebody that could play. Makari Vickers was hurt this spring, but I think that he could compete. I don't think he'd start week one. Kenai Walker is a guy that I think you and I both like, that we sometimes think people just forget about Kenai Walker, but he was really good at times last year for Oklahoma. But if I had to guess, right now, I would say it's Gentry and Des Malone.
Interesting.
I think those would be the two.
You think the move and kind of the experimentation that they did with Woody Washington?
I don't think Woody's going to play a ton of corner, and maybe I'm wrong. I think he's going to end up playing a lot of slot, maybe some nickel. I think he's going to play some safety. Depending on what that safety room looks like. One thing that I like the safety room, but when you talk about experience and depth there, they don't have a ton.
Right.
You have Billy Bowman, Billy Bowman's one of the best in the country. You love Peyton Bowen.
All things considered, Peyton Bowen's still relatively young. I mean, I know that he's going into his sophomore season. Exactly.
Robert Spears-Jennings.
Now, I would say, do I want some of those guys to get out onto the field and play obviously a lot more than they did last year? Yeah, that's obvious. And I think that it's pretty obvious that that's going to happen. That those guys, like Robert Spears-Jennings, I would consider him to be a guy that I think he's going to play quite a bit.
Yeah, but and I agree, but you look at how many safeties they rotated last year. They rotated it had like a 4-man rotation. I think Woody Washington could be in that 4-man rotation with those other 3 guys that we just mentioned.
It'll be interesting.
And they love Jaden Hardy.
Bought into the idea that Woody moves away from cornerback. I really don't know, though.
Yeah, I mean, just watch him practice.
The experimentation, it turned from an experimentation into maybe more so of are they actually really doing this? Is this an official move?
I just think you really like some of the guys at corner that you have, and that you could put, Woody in certain packages where he's playing the nickel in the slot, which I think he would be really, really good at alongside Kendall Dolby, I think Kendall Dolby is really, really, really good. And, Woody started his career at safety, and I think he came on, the Family Business and was talking about how he feels like he's more fit to maybe play some safety. So I just think that there's a chance that he's kind of moving all over the place. And if he's moving all over the place, you start at Gentry and Des Malone.
Sure. It's going to be interesting. I know that one of the positions over the last 3 years since Brent has arrived that has almost become a little bit of a cliche talking point is the cheetah position. Obviously, Justin Harrington has moved out of out of Norman. He's now at Washington, entered the transfer portal, which somewhat wasn't much of a surprise. And I think it was because of reasons that we had seen kind of develop during the spring as he rehabbed. There's just other guys out there.
Yep.
And so that's what Steven is asking. Cheetah starter and rotation predictions. Does someone take over the position? I don't know about take over the position, but I think that there's some likely candidates that you see out there quite a bit.
Well, I think Kendall Dolby, that's where you have to start. And the way he finished last season, I thought he was really good in the Alamo Bowl. He kind of took over Deshaun McCullough's spot last season, and he's obviously much better in coverage because he is a guy that has played some corner and some nickel. So I think it's going to be Kendall Dolby to start, but it's interesting because they have a bunch of different body types there. When you look at like a Samuel Omasigo, who's really built like a linebacker, but can run really well, you wonder, is he a guy that they play in different situations because he can kind of play the run and the pass? Dasan McCullough's kind of moved inside. So it's like, does Dasan McCullough play cheetah this year? I still think he'll play in some of those packages, and especially if they run, a 3-3-5, you're going to see Dasan McCullough in that type of a package where he could walk up on the edge and all of a sudden it's a 4-man front, or maybe he could drop back in coverage, whatever you want to do. So he's kind of your versatile player there. And then you have like a guy like Jaden Rowe. Like, where does Jaden Rowe fit into this? He was somebody that I think we all thought might enter the portal. But he's been dealing with injuries and all that, but he kind of fits the body type that you want there. But I think it's Kendall Dolby, and then I think after him it's Samuel Omasigo, and then again, like I said, Dasan McCullough is still going to play some cheetah, but he's been playing a lot of will linebacker, and I know that he's very comfortable playing that inside linebacker spot. So we'll see if he's playing a ton of cheetah. But right now I would say it's Dolby and Omasigo.
We'll get to the next question here shortly. I do want to say, though, we're talking about the cheetah position. I know that this week we began running some look backs from what we learned as far as position by position, and Bob did write something about the cheetah position, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's the first one.
You were just working on something this afternoon. What
the
position?
Receiver. I'm doing
the receiver.
That should be out this evening.
Okay, and you've already wrote one about the
running backs
and
quarterbacks.
Right.
So we'll have all of them, I think, done by next week.
Good time to join SoonerScoop.com. You can literally join for $1. And let's just be honest. If you can't afford $1, you're poor.
You are poor.
You're a very poor person.
Yeah.
And very, very sad. All right. Keep hearing about Dasan playing more will than cheetah. Odds that he ends up starting there next to Stutzman on opening day.
I would say low on opening day. Now, could Dasan by the end of the season be starting there? Sure. I think that he's got that ceiling where he's got a lot of potential that could play different spots. Like I said, I think he's got really good instincts in the run game. It's kind of in the passing game that he's kind of shown some weaknesses. But I think the better bet is definitely Kip Lewis. I think Kip Lewis will probably be the day one starter. And I watch out for Lewis Carter because I think Lewis Carter is somebody they love. Burnt Venables raves about him. He had a really, really good spring. We saw him. He started the spring game at that will linebacker spot, and Kip Lewis was with Kobe McKenzie in the second unit. So I think that you could see Lewis Carter starting there, but maybe before Dasan McCullough. But I know that Dasan had a really good spring as well, and feels very comfortable there. So they're very, very deep at the linebackers position. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out.
It will be. The entire the linebacker position. I know it's something that we talked about during spring. It's very interesting because there are so many bodies that you could seriously make a good argument about in terms of who is going to be that guy. Kerry, let's go to that question because he maybe is the most interesting question of all of them.
Yeah.
Just in terms of Jiren Kanik and what is happening as he enters his third year in Norman. Is he getting lost in the mix? Is this a situation that other guys are just becoming better? It's going to be interesting. Scott wants to know, it would be a shame if a kid with all that talent, talking about Jiren Kanik, doesn't get to play for us. Yes and no. I love Jiren, but they're going to obviously have to play the guy that is better. I still think, and I think you say that in thinking also, I don't think the book is written on Jiren Kanik. I think we're still in the early stages.
I think we need to have some perspective on this too. It's you look back last season, and I think everybody says, well, Kip Lewis started over Jiren Kanik because Jiren wasn't playing well.
Yeah.
But I think it was more so Kip Lewis was just too good to keep off the field. I think it was a mix of both. And Jiren, he had moments last year where he looked really, really good. He flashed and showed those glimpses of the athlete that he is. And I still think he can be a really good player. It just takes some time. And I think I said on the live stream last week that this is a kid that has never played this position before. And so he's still adjusting. He's still learning. Whereas guys like Kip Lewis, Lewis Carter, Samuel Omasigo, Kobe McKenzie, all these guys have played linebacker their entire careers, all of their lives, whereas Jiren has never done that. So just give him some time, and maybe he gets passed by. That's not a bad problem to have. When you talk about the amount of guys you have at linebacker right now that you could play and you feel good about, if Jiren Kanik is your backup will linebacker, that's a pretty damn good backup will linebacker. Right. So he's played the position. He's starting to grasp the defense. that's a good spot to have with that kid. So when's the last time you could say that about Oklahoma's linebacker room? It's been a long time.
In a way, I think it also speaks to just how well they've been recruiting in terms of development or, finding guys that fit what Brent wants to look for in terms of a Lewis Carter or even a Samuel Obasigo. I know it's not the linebacker position necessarily, but I do think you're starting to see them stack really good recruiting classes, and that's just a product of it.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even mention, guys like Phil Pachotti, who's coming off the ACL injury from a year ago. What does he look like? I don't expect him to get on the field next year, but he's another body. James Nesta, who's coming in from this recent class, I think is somebody that they really like that could play in a few years. So that linebacker room is, I think, one of the most impressive groups, that they have right now. And it shouldn't be a surprise with Brent Venables being the head coach and kind of leading the charge there.
Game 2 underway in Cincinnati. Oklahoma has opened up with a 4-run spot in the top of the first. They've scored
there you go.
65 runs in the last 4 games.
Wow.
Pretty good. One last Kanik question. Odds that Jiren Kanik ends up recommit, transfers Clemson, or I don't even know what that means.
I'd say very low.
Yeah.
Like, if anything,
I don't think that he's like unhappy or anything.
No. And he's talked a lot about, everybody knows his story of he wanted to come play for Brent Venables and all of that. I think he's willing to wait it out and be patient and also compete. Like, I think he is a competitor at the end of the day. He's obviously very close with Danny Stutzman. We see that on social media all the time. Like, I think he's certainly going to be somebody that, continues to believe in the process of this thing.
No doubt about it.
I think if he were to transfer, it wouldn't be to Clemson. I think it'd be maybe he goes closer to home or something like that in Kansas.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Either or, Kansas or Kansas State. Not bad options right now. Lance Leopold, what he's done in the transfer portal. He got by Job, right? Kid from Michigan State?
Yep.
Down from
Oklahoma product.
From Norman, actually. Yep. Dabo said today that most portal guys aren't good enough to play for Clemson. Dead program walking. Yeah, I saw the clip. I mean, if he wants to explain it like that, that's fine. I think that there's certainly going to be some pushback. We talked about it on the Unofficial 40. There's going to be a lot of pushback with anything that Dabo says right now, especially if he's not winning football games. I just feel like this is one of those, I don't know. Why dig this type of hole?
Yeah, and
if you're Dabo.
I've talked about it a lot, but I think there's a balance, especially for big programs like a Clemson or an Oklahoma or you name it, where do you want to build your whole team on the transfer portal like an Ole Miss? Probably not. And we'll see. Ole Miss is a really good experiment this year. Missouri as well. But you also don't want to be the opposite and be like Clemson where they're just not taking anybody. That just makes no sense. I think that you have to find a fine balance of like, hey, we need a body or we need a couple bodies here to fill the gaps and get us to where, recruiting's always your lifeblood in college football. I still believe that's going to be the case. But I think that, Dabo's approach has just been pretty moronic, to be blunt.
Yeah, no doubt about it. One more portal question. Let's hit it. Tanner wants to know, when is the next portal window, and do you expect any guys from OU to look elsewhere? I mean, I think that is so far away. It would be in December.
It's December, I believe.
Yeah, it'd be December after the football season.
Maybe, something like that. I know they announced.
I think they moved it up to where it kind of coincides with that first week of championship weekend. Right. Obviously, Oklahoma, and if you were to be playing in the SEC championship, anything like that, it would be way after that. So I think that is so far off. It would be purely speculation and almost unfair speculation if you were thinking about guys that were going to enter the portal come December.
Too hard.
There's a lot of football to be played.
Yeah, I mean, look, they're going to have guys enter every year. I'm not going to name any names just because we have no idea. And we have no idea how the season's going to play out.
The last thing that we want out there right now is a clip running around on the internet that we're predicting that Jackson Arnold's going to transfer after the first year in the SEC.
You don't know who's going to get injured, and like other guys are going to have to step up. And if you would have told me last year in the summer that Justin Harrington was going to transfer, I'd been like, you're crazy. You know, he's a starter. So, but he got hurt and gets the medical waiver and all that. So. Too early to speculate, but it's not till December. It's a long ways away.
Make that a 7-run first inning for Oklahoma and Cincinnati, looking to sweep the doubleheader. Obviously, a long ways to go in Game 2, just still in the first inning. We want to talk a little offensive line. I know that it was said that Kerry said that we had a question about the offensive line. Is Jacob Sexton going to be a tackle or guard when fall practice begins? That might be the $1 million question going into this.
I was about to say, I don't know.
Season.
I honestly don't have an answer for you. I think it's going to be guard. I think the way that he played guard in the spring to end out the last couple of weeks of practice, they really liked him there. Now, how the offensive line shakes out, I think it'll largely depend on how does that right tackle spot figure itself out? Because if Jake Taylor or Spencer Brown or Logan Halland or whoever can't figure it out at right tackle, I wonder if they say, okay, well, we're going to move Jacob Sexton back to right tackle because that's where he finished out the year last year, obviously, and was pretty good for Oklahoma. And you like what you got in Michael Tarquin at left tackle, and you could bring in Heath Ozeta at left guard. So it's an interesting question because you really just don't know, if what's going to happen at right tackle. I think they'd really like for Jake Taylor to kind of assert himself and be that guy at right tackle, so then they don't have to move a Jacob Sexton. Because if they're trying to get their best 5 out there, Jacob Sexton is somewhere on that offensive line. I don't know if it's at guard or if it's at tackle, but if you're trying to get your best 5, Jacob Sexton is somewhere on that offensive line.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Very good. The questions abound with the offensive line. There are so many of them still, even going into next season. But I think that the Branson Hickman thing, it did kind of calm everybody down a little bit. Yeah. We'll see, though.
Get someone like that. It's always helpful. And what's this question? I can't read.
Garen Hatchett. Are you interested in LASIK?
I probably need to get it.
For $400 off, you can go get it and see it. My friends at Enjoy Vision. How about that? That's a free promo right there. The great sponsor, Enjoy Vision. We talk to him. We talk about him every week on the Unofficial 40. Will Garen Hatchett be a starter?
No, I don't think so.
Truly don't know what he's going to bring to the Oklahoma program, though.
No.
I mean, he never practiced during the spring.
He's got some experience. He's played multiple positions. I think that he's kind of your utility guy. He reminds me of who was the Robert Conjol a couple years ago. Remember him, Eddie? He kind of played guard, kind of played center. Was the guy that if somebody missed a game or had to miss a quarter or a series or whatever, he came in and played. I could see Garen Hatchett kind of playing that role where, Heath Ozeta can't play or Jacob Sexton's out or Fabici Wiwu gets hurt, or even I think he could play some center. Like I think he could come in and play one of those 3 interior spots, and you'd feel like, okay, he's played some football. He's played at the Power 5 level. Like he played in the national championship game for Washington. Like he's played at a very high level. I just don't think he's his potential's not as high as a guy like a Jacob Sexton or a Fabici Wiwu. He doesn't have as much experience playing center as a Branson Hickman, so it's hard to figure out where he kind of fits in. But I think he's a nice utility guy that you can say, okay, we have this guy if somebody were to go down.
And the good news is, and I think I remember Brent talking about it right at the end of spring, they do expect Hatchett to be available full summer, full go.
Yeah, and I think he was close in the spring. It's kind of like a Jake Roberts situation there for a bit. I think he might have had another procedure done, but he should be good to go, I think, this summer.
Very good. Very good. We have any more offensive line questions, Kerry, if we want to stick there? Nothing yet. All right. Well, I mean, we've been here for about an hour so far. It's good to get back out here. We are going to try to continue to do these on Thursday. We're going to loosely work with the day. Thursday seems to work pretty good, though.
Yeah.
To get out and be able to kind of connect with everybody out there on SoonerScoop.com's YouTube page. Was there any buzz for Call Albert running back Xavier Robinson at running back? He had an interesting spring, just in that didn't really hear a whole lot about him. I do think that because of his body style and because of and I do think that there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment in terms of the way that he ran at the high school level compared to what he's going to be asked to do in college. I don't know. I think it's going to be kind of interesting. Is he going to be something of like a red zone guy? You get inside the 5, you turn around and hand it off to X. I don't know. I mean, he's a massive body, though.
If I had to guess, he's probably still a year away from being a real contributor, and maybe he plays some special teams this year. Like you said, his body size, you could put him on some different stuff, maybe kickoff or something like that, or punt team. But I just think that when you look at that running back room, if Gavin Sawchuk's healthy, if Javonte Barnes is healthy, which those are 2 big Fs with those 2 guys, but I think that those are your two guys, and maybe I think Taylor Tatum is more likely to contribute next year than maybe an Xavier Robinson, and that's just because Taylor Tatum is his potential, I think, is through the roof.
Sure.
Now, I think you're right that there could be some special packages for a guy like Xavier Robinson because he's so big. But I know they also like Caleb Hicks. They brought in Sam Franklin. Like that running back room, there's a lot of unknowns, but you feel pretty good about it. Like you like the talent there. So I just think that Xavier's probably still a season away from being a real contributor.
July 1 is just around the corner when it becomes official that Oklahoma will be entering the SEC. I know that they're going to have a quite an extravaganza planned here in Norman. I know that Paul Feinbaum's going to be in town, our good buddy. Hopefully we'll try to catch up with him. Maybe that'd be pretty special
awesome
if we could get him into the
I think we
Scoop
could get him on
offices.
the YouTube show.
Would love to get him into the Scoop offices, maybe
yeah.
the new studio here coming up by the end of June, obviously the beginning of July. But there are a couple questions about Oklahoma and moving to the SEC. Stephen wants to know, will OU fans represent well and tailgate properly at away games? If the LSU game is at 7:30, they will all start tailgating at 9 a.m. Yeah, I don't know how many people are going to be going down to the Baton Rouge experience. I know that there's a lot of people, my parents included, going down to Oxford for the Ole Miss game. I think that there is like this, I don't know, like illusion that, I don't even know if it's an illusion, more so of a reality, that you don't probably get treated too well for the away experience in Baton Rouge. But yeah, I mean, I would imagine that there's going to be a lot of Oklahoma fans that do travel out to a lot of games this year.
I mean, I know my brother was talking about going to the LSU game. I think that they'll tailgate well. I think
Nick's probably a little bit more fit to take in the maybe words of encouragement that you would get from somebody down in Baton Rouge.
He's also been very good on the road with his teams. I think there's this weird narrative that OU fans like aren't invested or like they don't tailgate that well. Like I think OU fans are pretty
it's
good.
It's one of those things that we live in the bubble that we have talked about before here on, I think, even some of the live streams. It's one of those things. It's a lot better than I think that people realize. And even when Oklahoma goes to some of these bigger settings, and I know that they're kind of marquee games, whether it be a Tallahassee back in 2011 or Ohio State, Tennessee, Notre Dame, OU's always traveled extremely well to those games.
And I think the first year being the SEC, fans are going to be pretty fired up to go to all the games.
100%. Justin wants to know, away game you're most excited about? I mean, I think that I would be hard-pressed to say that it's one or two. I mean, I think it's Ole Miss for the outside atmosphere and the tailgating, and maybe even the game itself with what Ole Miss has coming in. And then LSU, if it could be a night game, I think
it's LSU for me.
That'd be special.
Yeah, I've just always heard that Death Valley is a special place to watch a game.
Even with that said, like LSU's going to be awesome. Ole Miss is going to be awesome. I'm excited to go to Auburn. I've never been to Auburn, and I think that's going to be kind of cool.
I think Auburn will be cool. I know Missouri. Everybody's like, oh, it's just Missouri. And OU's played there before, but I just think that that is starting to ramp up as a little bit of a rivalry among the fan bases. So I think that I don't really know much about Missouri's campus or their stadium or anything like that, but I do think that the game itself should be a good one.
No doubt. I'm very excited about the just the away trips in general. And if nothing else, I think it's a lot to do with because they're new places. It's places that we haven't been over the last couple of years. Even a place like Columbia, as you said, I've been up there, covered a game. Covered, I think, 2 games up there even. But it's going to bring a little bit different, and especially if they're both as good as, we think that they could be. And November 9th could be a lot of fun for Oklahoma towards the back end of the SEC schedule and getting into November and everything that comes with that. If you're racing or if you're in any type of race for the SEC championship or for a college football playoff, that kind of stuff. Ryan wants to know, good name too, Ryan. Hopefully you're named after Ryan Sandberg. Will OU's improved tailgating plans be more resemble the closet studio, the closet studio, or the mythical one? I don't know what that means. I still don't understand the question.
I think he's just saying, will the tailgating be as awesome as like the plans, like what they're talking about, the tailgating plans be as awesome as the studio that we've been. I don't know. I think the studio is going to be pretty badass.
Here's the thing with tailgating. I think that, I do think the new studio is going to be awesome.
Yep.
The thing with tailgating is it could be a field see the Grove, it's what you make out of it.
Yeah,
it's
agree.
The atmosphere can be made out of anything. It's just if you have people that, preferably have enough booze to go around and turn it into a nice little party.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're gonna do some improvements in terms of the tailgating. We'll see what that looks like maybe this summer, but I don't expect it to be like these drastic changes. Like you're not gonna all of a sudden be tailgating on like the South Oval. I don't think.
Yeah.
No,
I don't think that that's going to be the case, but
yeah.
I do think that there's going to be other areas. And, if nothing else, I think when you get down to it, it's going to be a situation that because there are going to be so many higher or raised expectations for just teams coming in general, better TV times, not having to, get down here at 7:30 in the morning or whatever it's going to be for an 11 a.m. game. You might still be showing up at 8 a.m., but you're planning on drinking and snorting Adderall all day. You know what I mean?
I don't, but
well, you should.
Yeah,
you should.
I've never snorted Adderall.
Well, neither have I. But that's not good for you.
Yeah.
You need to have a prescription for that stuff. We're definitely SEC ready. Can you not tell? All right. Are we getting to the end of it?
I think we're getting close to the end.
We're getting close to the end. Well, once again, thank you for joining us here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube page. We're going to have a lot of fun with these, especially over the summer. Maybe we can cook up some, I don't know about theme nights, but maybe we can get into, some other stuff outside of
I think
OU athletics in general.
Yeah.
Where we're not bitching and complaining and kind of down about the Thunder.
Yeah.
All right, one more. We'll do one more. KW, I've said that before. We'll do one more, and then all of a sudden you have sun coming into the blinds, and the sun's coming up, and it's like, all right, I do need to go to bed. Maybe we shouldn't have done one more at 2 a.m. Forget about tailgating. What about game day atmosphere? With better home games not at 11 a.m., the fans will have more of an impact on the game, but the school has to do better creating in-game energy. I do think that they are planning to do some other things. I know that they've taken some stuff from, not necessarily stolen it from other SEC schools, but I do think that there are some other ideas that they're going to try and implement before games. At the same time, I think it's, again, one of those things that, there's only so much I think that they can do. If you're talking about music, maybe you make other music selections. But I do think that, again, we go down there every Saturday. You go to some of these other places, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And for the good and for the bad.
I just think back to, and I was a kid, but when Texas Tech came to town in 2008, obviously that's the one people think of, or Missouri in 2007, or Notre Dame in, what year was that? 2012, whatever season, Kansas State in 2014. When top 10 teams came to Norman, the place gets rocking, and the atmosphere is one of the best. I think that when you have Tennessee and Alabama and some of these programs coming to town, the OU fan base is going to get into it, and I don't think it's so much about improving the game day atmosphere. And I, like Eddie said, I think they're looking into things like that, but at the end of the day, it's the people that make this thing go and the fans. And so I think that you're going to see improve, just because instead of Iowa State, and this is I guess it is a slight, but it's not Iowa State and Kansas and some of these other programs that are coming in. It is the big boys. When Josh Heupel comes to town.
In name at least.
Right. And I think that alone will improve the game day atmosphere more than them, deciding we're going to play more Drake at the game, something like that.
Have they played Drake before?
I have no idea.
What if they just went P. Diddy only, and they just only play P. Diddy songs?
No comment on P. Diddy, but
that sounds like a token of support in a way.
No, but I do wonder if they'll do something like, a lot of these schools, it's hard to build a new tradition, but a lot of these schools have a fourth quarter song or something like that.
Sure.
I wonder if they do, especially with, Toby Keith obviously passing away. Do you pick something like that? I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, it would be cool. Jay Parker, scheduling the SEC, do you think it will change going into the pods, or do you think it will be the same next year?
Well, they've already announced.
Right.
It's the same in 2025. You just flip the home and away. After that, I do think they'll go to a different scheduling system. I think the first 2 years they're just trying to do an easy process.
And if you look at the way that some of the basketball stuff has come out with a little bit of potting, it seems like Texas A&M, Missouri, and I can't remember what the third one or the third school
Arkansas?
is it Arkansas?
I can't remember.
I don't know. It seems like there is going to be some type of pod.
A&M.
I
think it was A&M.
Is it A&M?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So OU and A&M are going to be tangled up together for quite a long time, both on the recruiting trail and obviously on the field of competition. So should we play the new Luke Combs song at third quarter of football games? No,
the
probably
Twister
not.
song? It's about twisters or whatever?
Yeah, probably not.
No. I think it needs to be
that has
Toby.
anything
I
to
think
do
if you're
with,
going to pick
Pete
one, you got to
Nassif
pick a
football.
Toby Keith song.
Yeah.
It
doesn't matter to me.
that doesn't matter to me either.
I don't want a song about tornadoes, though.
Yeah, no, I think that's the Twister movie also just looks, as an Oklahoman,
good
I will go
song?
see it. It's not, I mean, it's Luke Combs, it's pretty good, but like the Twister movie itself, as an Oklahoman, I will go see it because I'm obligated to go see it, but it also is so dramatized. It's like, this is just stupid.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, very good. Everybody, thank you for joining us. We will try to check back in here. More recently, we'll get back into a little bit of spring football. There's not a whole lot to recap, certainly, but there's some other stuff that we can get into. We'll be keeping an eye on Aiden Huntington and his visit to Norman over the weekend, whenever that comes to an end. So, thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for watching, and thank you to you out there, the viewer out on YouTube. Make sure you hit promo code OU1 for $1 for 2 months for SoonerScoop.com. So, for George Stoia, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll talk to you next time.
Thunder and 7.